Hello, hi, hey everyone, it's Salman Qureshi. You're listening to the Expat Brat podcast, and welcome. If you're a repeat audience member, then welcome back. If you're listening for the first time, good luck, and hope you waste your time listening to the full podcast, because why not? You're probably driving somewhere. Hold on, don't cut me off right now. You can always switch back to your favorite podcast and listen to them later. But if you're listening today and you want to have an adventure while you're driving in your car, then let's do that, man. Let's do that instead of doing the same thing over and over again, listening to the same people over and over again, because that's the mantra of improvisation. This episode is largely dedicated to Keith Johnstone. For those of you who are not part of the small improv world, then you have no idea probably, or may have only heard the name of this person in passing. But for anyone who is in the world of improv, he was one of the key founders of this format, and he's produced shows, created shows per se, and a lot of the exercises and work that we do in it are, that go back to him. And so, March 11, 2023, this man at 90 years of age has passed away. And on my timeline, on my social media, on Instagram and Facebook, I can see a lot of people dedicating posts to him and whatnot. I didn't because I felt I'd be slightly lying or cheating. And only because I didn't get to meet him in person. And that's my first story about Keith. My story about Keith is that I missed out on seeing him. The Courtyard Playhouse, Kemsley, the owner, decided he was going to be extra generous and take all of us over to the UK to take part in a workshop led by Keith. One of the last few ones he was doing, He was getting old. He was doing far fewer classes. And this is about 5-6 years ago, where we all went, yes, let's do it. 4 or 5 of the people from the Courtyard were planning to go, and lo and behold, I didn't get my visa for the UK, and so I missed out on really meeting him face to face, having that chance to speak to him, and it hurt. It did hurt a lot. I thought, well, that's going to be my experience of Keith. I did get Kemsley, and I owe Kemsley this. He got me back a signed book by Keith, and it has, I don't have it in front of me, but what he wrote was very sweet. He said, sorry about the British, something along the lines about not getting your visa, and love, Keith. And in that indirect form, he communicated personally to me, and I may not have ever spoken to him, but I read his book and his books and his work, and am inspired by it. So, he does mean something to me. I just wanted to honor it through the podcast instead. And it's cool because I was also lucky that I've had time with Patty Styles and Sean McKinley, who were both sort of like the first people around Keith when he was developing the work in the 80s and whatnot. And so they've had firsthand experience of the growth of the work, and really spent a lot of time with him. And to hear Keith's work through them and what the exercises meant helped me to connect in some way to him and to his work, and inspire it in my own teachings to people as they come along. I try to honor it. I don't know if I get it right because, like I said, I didn't get a chance to be with him to really experience some of the stuff. All I have are his words and video clips and books, and the messages sent across from his disciples, I suppose, which is kind of, it starts sounding like a cult or a religion at some point. But Sean particularly had a big impact on me. He continues to do so, and I have a lot of love for this guy. If you ever catch him performing or teaching somewhere where you are, Sean Kinley, then drop everything you have and go meet the guy. He's refreshing in his own ways. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about Keith, and if you're still stuck around and not bored by what was I talking about, I would encourage you to read upon his work and stuff. And particularly because his work, the improv work, apart from the theater and the comedy side of it, it really applies to everyday life and to the growth of people. And I get these people who come in, and there's a common thing about amongst grown-ups, adults, that we're stuck. We want control. We fear the unknown. We don't want to do anything that risks our reputation and name, and even on a small scale. And to break that, to try to encourage people to change, or to just live life a bit better and more openly and freely and enjoy it. It's a lot of hard work, and I struggle sometimes, and I fail a lot of times in getting people to that. And I blame myself totally for it, as the instructor in the workshop, that I've not been able to get people to that point. But if you do, if you stick with it, it's such a massive difference in how you come across at life, regardless of work, family, whatever situation. And a lot of the improvisational work boils down to me to two very simple ideas. One being about being spontaneous, what makes you spontaneous. So everything is built on how do we change people to just being spontaneous and playful. And it really comes down to this thing that nothing that works today may work tomorrow. It's an easy idea, but loads of people cannot live it. Or when push comes to shove, we want to go back into the known, sure, guaranteed something that worked to get us through. And time and again in businesses, in life, and in this ever-changing world, we realize those who glue their feet into one place are often the ones left behind. And you've heard enough stories for me not to have to repeat about big companies like the Blockbuster, IBM, who at certain points were almost blown away because they didn't want to adapt and or do things differently. And so that simple idea is one of the cornerstones for me about improv, being spontaneous in this. And the other thing that really hit home with me always was Keith, and Sean, through Sean at least, learning to be average. It's a mantra that I kept hearing, and it took me so long to really, and I still fail at it sometimes, is to really try it. And what does it mean? It's the idea to stop trying to be better than you are or be the best. Try your best. And it sounds like, why wouldn't you? But it's kind of paradoxical. Like, trying hard or too hard to be better makes things worse sometimes, especially, and I see this over and over with people on stage. And you sometimes just go, hey, just calm down, take it easy, don't take it so seriously. Whatever level you are, you're at that level right now. And yes, you can do to get better, develop yourself, and you'll grow as a person, as a performer, whatever it is that you're doing. But in this moment, enjoy it. And I think it hit me because at some point, right, this is kind of funny, I approached my education like that at some point, because I used to worry a lot about the grades and stuff. And then I hit this point where I was like, hey man, I'm going to get to an exam, a test, and I'm only going to get as good. Either I can try cheating to make myself get better results, or I accept that this is how hard I worked and these were the results from it. And it was a very different thing back in my time because most people were so stressed about grades. But over time, that one simple thing helped me get better in my studies and in college particularly. I was a straight A student at one point. And it was this little philosophy that hit me. And then when I came to the improv world, this again, I think this solidified the idea, or put it in a bigger context, of just be average. Don't worry about being great, And I think Keith shares in one of his books about sports performers often breaking records or something on the day they weren't feeling their best, or were just kind of, just not completely in full competitive mode, because they were probably relaxed and just ended up performing really well. And those kind of stories make me think, yeah, and then I see people and I try to get this message across to them and they don't get it. And they come on stage and they want to like be the funniest person. And I'm like, but you've never done comedy. How will you turn into the funniest person in the world overnight? Just come out and play, just come out and have fun instead. And we can't, we're so stuck. So this is the world of improv I've been introduced to. I've been teaching, performing in it, and I love it. And like I said, well, Keith's gone now, and I feel like it's a nice time to step up and declare yourself myself, obviously the godfather of improv. Um, no, just I'm messing with you. If you want to make your life better, take an improv class, and maybe you'll find a class that's sucky. Go find another one. Eventually, you'll find a good class, and that will set you on a path of a great life. And I guarantee it will over time become part of your DNA, and that will help you have such a more wonderful, fun life, and maybe more success as well. Yeah, if that's what you are looking for. Aren't we all at some point? But then be average. Aha! See, that's how I caught you out. That's Keith. That's his work. Theater sports is a format that he created that I first did and I loved. And then there's a show called a Maestro, and it's a fun format where you get these actors up on stage, improvisers, and the audience knocks them off one by one based on the work they do. And it's quite fun. It's engaging. It's almost like a wrestling match in some ways, Theater Sports and Maestro, and Keith invented that. And at the Courtyard Playhouse in Dubai, this show has been going on for 10 plus years. Maestro, packed every Wednesday night, just packed. And it's unique and crazy to have that kind of success with a show, particularly one that is improvised every week, with the cast changing over time and stuff. It's probably the closest thing to like Saturday Night Live in the Middle East, in some ways, I guess, because you're watching skit after skit performed week after week by some core casts, most changing, some new, some bad. The risk of the show having lots of bad work in there as well, and yeah, so it does sound a lot like SNL. Could be about a lot of the stuff going on currently, or just about nonsense, or maybe something meaningful, and no one really knows how it's going to go down, and that's the beauty of it, I've been performing it fairly well, regularly, during these last 10 years. Wow, I can't, every time I say it out loud, I'm like, damn. And I've enjoyed every bit of it, and it's again, I've learned so much through the show, through the work we do on it, and it just makes you a different person and helped me grow a lot. So yeah, if you're in Dubai and you still haven't come down, go for it. It's not a sales pitch. It really, you'll capture Keith's work through it quite a bit as well. And we, it's such a human thing to do, to experience live shows, and improv is such a big capture of it. Anyway, that's my story and my relationship with Keith and his work. And I wish I had more personal stories of hanging out and stuff. And I think, well, now is I had great opportunities in different ways, and I'm still lucky to be exposed to him. And if you're listening to my podcast and a regular person, pick up his book. It's quite interesting. It's Improv for Storytellers in particular. He's got 2-3 out there, and then obviously his plays. He was an author as well. So, pick it up and see what's on there. It's great insights into life and whatnot. Having said that, I don't want to bore you completely about just Keith in this episode. There are some other things going on. There was the Chris Rock stand-up special. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's really good. I thought it was one of his best ones in some ways. Although, every special has been, well, special. And Chris Rock has his distinctive style, and he continues to be funny. Possibly maybe not the funniest one ever that he's done. The first part is just hilarious. And then in the middle, I think the middle is good, but not hilariously funny, if that makes sense. And then the last 10 minutes, guys, it is it is him ranting about the Will Smith stuff, and I loved it. I loved it. I think he got back at Will Smith in such a fun way. Not just about the joking, just being brutally honest about it, and also timing it just right. I don't know if he did this deliberately, but it's been a year, and finally, Will must have been planning to come back and let the story die. But the special coming out now, and Chris Rock talking about it, definitely has put that whole thing up in people's minds again, and will impact any kind of comeback Will Smith was targeting. And that's great. How sweet of a revenge is that, right? It's a great way to get back at the person, to prolong their pain now, and cause a loss to him. But he deserved it, like Chris Rock says in the show, and I really thought it was good. The other thing I've watched is You. The second part of You has come out, and Sarah and I are trying to watch it. We're still not through it. We're like on episode 7 midway, and it's not the best You season yet. Maybe the break has affected my perception of it, and which just goes back to I've been against it. I feel like Netflix is doing this stupid thing of releasing half of it here, half of it later. It doesn't make any sense. Just go with what your strength was. Just release it. I loved You, and maybe this flow is affecting it. I don't know, but it also has not been the biggest one because it's very different. It kind of, the break off was too big. I don't know. It's not bad. Like You is still a great series, and I love the character. But just this season, it's not been killer. Maybe by the end of it, I'll love it, and I'll give you guys my full review. I'm also just watching The Hunters right now, which has a season 2, but I'm only almost done with season 1. If you don't know it, it's Al Pacino, and I don't know any of the other cast in that, but it's a good cast. And the show is about these guys hunting down Nazis who moved into this U.S. And I'm not a big fan of watching movies set in World War II, but this one really made me feel bad for what happened under Hitler for the Jewish community. And obviously there are loads of movies and stuff that cover that, but there was something about the way it was done in this that it wasn't preachy. And yet at the same time, I was like, man, that is just terrible. And the stories hit you a little harder, and it's given to you in bits and bobs through the series. But it is set in the 1970s US, so not modern America. And the story's interesting. It's a fast-paced series and has a lot of interesting characters in it. So, just a season I would recommend watching. It's been great so far. And Al Pacino, man. Al Pacino. I love the guy. God, what else has been going on, people? There's so much going on. Zayan is good. He's going to school now. We're toilet training him. Yes, that's what's going on in my life. We're trying to toilet train him, and he's been very good about it. But wow, it takes time with some kids. And if you have any tips and techniques, please let me know. There've been a few, there's a lot of cleanups we've had to do. Luckily, it's been mostly in the balcony because he's like, I prefer making a mess there, and it's been cute. But that's what's been going on. That's been keeping me super busy with our nanny and the house and everything. It does. There was something about it that hit me, not about the toilet training, but with Zayan in particular. I recently met someone, and they were like trying to get his attention. So I mentioned, listen, he's on the spectrum on autism, so don't worry about it. And I said it from a point of view so they're not frustrated or disappointed. Just explain his story to them. And they got all worried, and they're like, you don't have to tell people he's autistic. Just treat him normal. And why would you tell him? And just treat him. He's fine. Look at him. He's fine. And I'm like, hey, I'm not the one perceiving this as some kind of mental illness or disease or something wrong with him. He's just different in a way. But I found it interesting that there's this lack of knowledge about it. And so, I don't know. I think people need to read up more on it because it's... Anyway, it was a weird one for me to try to deal with. I didn't get offended. I felt bad they didn't understand, and they thought I'm a bad father because I'm just going around in their heads saying, "Oh, my kid's not great. Like, just treat him like a dumbass." And so that was my weird moment of the week, I guess. And just goes to show I do want to educate people more a little bit about autism. I'm not super educated about it myself, still trying to put my head around it. But Zayan's been great in some ways and like fun. And I had a great time with him. That's what I try to get people to understand. He's a great kid. He's fun. And you don't need to worry about that shit, man. What am I going on about? Oh God, this is a lot. I've been doing a lot of stand up, as I keep saying. But lately, I've had some close friends, comedy friends, and family, almost like family. They are family, who've been kicking my behind a bit. Which, you know, when you're older, you're just like, hey, should people be doing that to me at this age? But I'm glad they are, because it's put a few things into perspective. Just gives you that little kick to go, hey, work harder or sort yourself out. It's not just work hard. Get yourself aligned. And it's really turned my comedy. I've been talking about it in the last couple of episodes. I've had a chance to perform alongside some, good names and great performers, experienced performers. And that's great. Oh, by the way, before I forget, the Courtyard Playhouse is celebrating a 10-year anniversary in the last week of March. If you're Dubai based again, or coming down to Dubai during that time, then check it out. There's shows every night. They're like these performers coming from abroad that are awesome, and you don't want to miss them performing live here. So grab at least one show if you are, and experience great improv, because they're really wonderful to watch. Every time I watch one of these guys, Felipe, who's Colombian, and he's just such a great performer that every time I watch him, I learn something from him. And I had someone telling me, hey, when you guys are on stage, it's really great to watch. And I was just thinking, honestly, it's him. And he just makes it so easy on you and inspires you so much that you end up doing great work. And so, but I'll take the credit. Who cares, right? I'll make it sound like I'm doing great work myself. Oh no, I've revealed it on the podcast. God damn it. So that's my world, people. That's what's happening. It's TV, shows, work, and saying goodbye to people who played a big role in my development or had a big impact on my life. Just to wrap this episode up, I want to say one more time, look up Keith Johnstone's work. He was a pioneer. And Keith, wherever you are, he used to run the Loose Moose Theater. Wherever you are now, may you be in peace and having fun, and continue to inspire millions of people. He will, through his work, will continue to do so. So it's great. Goodbye, Keith, and thank you guys for listening. That's it from my side. Goodbye, or as a dog would say, woof.